My name is Mansu Kim, work at Imperial Solutions.
Emphasize more from S generative to CATIA the workflow.
Nice, right? And
Right,
also
right.
remember that this is not only the result, it's all including the structures. So you can see. So maybe from here, I can show you some stuff. But before I explain the parameters, I wanted to know your the maturity of experience of using CATIA. So maybe can you explain your ability of
Yeah.
CATIA for now?
So myself, we usually start from the massing. We get a wireframe, and most often would be the ISO curve on the surface for a lot of reasons to use ISO curves, especially for curtain wall design. Then I am building some components, but mostly would be done by power copy, and I can create like a simple UDF. So essentially the same level complexity like the power copy, but in the UDF form. So UDF is, if I may explain a little bit, UDF is encapsulated, it's essentially encapsulated all the geometry you typically would be done, you will be doing in the power copy. And I'm very familiar with embedding the geometric parameters, like a geometry control. And using a lot of sketch. So using sketches, constraint, using perimeter in sketches. I'm very familiar with that. So in general, anything based operation in CATIA, I am quite familiar with. Meaning anything beyond like a action, EKL, that type of thing, I really have no idea.
Okay.
But
Good.
before that, I can do all the basic things. But the drawback is not leveraging the automation part in CATIA.
Okay, impressive. Do you also using product level, like for achieve IPC format or component or some things, or just working?
Do you like me to show the file I'm working on right now?
Yeah, why not? You can share your screen.
I think this is more like the approach from the architectural firm.
Yep.
So let me see. Let me share my screen.
Maybe the left side of the leaf, you have a share contents. Or Control Shift E, maybe.
Yeah. You can see, right?
Yep.
So maybe this explain your question. So I'm using the assembly design,
Okay.
and these are the project level. But of course, the project is they are parts in the project. But the way we organize these are really about more like using the parts as the folder. If I may, kind of using the Windows system, the file management. So we are using the parts as a folder. So nothing I'm building is really heavily using the UDF at all. So for example, the driver has, so you see the other level of information will be labels, the built-in floors, The geometry is the massing,
Mm-hmm.
and this wireframe is coming from massing. The
Mhm.
site currently here is just one enclosed polyline.
Okay.
Then we have the driver. Then we have the envelope. Essentially, we have all the controls, definition of the panels.
Yep.
Of course, we have the envelope, and we also have the structure in the product level. And under the product level, we start to break down the wireframe again. So it's a lot of way to organize the product and parts. But what I'm trying to explain, for example, some people should be very familiar with Revit. Revit have work set, and when we are using the parts are more like a work set.
Okay.
So
It's okay. I'm
yes,
also using the Revit before.
yes,
When you mentioned about UDF, it's a kind of a family in Revit. You know, there's
yes, yes,
original files. You can modify them, update the UDF. Those are UDF stuff. And the power copy is just copy a process, not the shape, only the shape, but also copy a process. But it acts, differently.
yes.
All data are live, the history differently. It will going to work. So when you wanted to see the design variations, it's much good for using a power copy. And the UDF is it's quite similar, but UDF is like you will going to compact.
When you have a mature process, yeah. When you have a mature process, you don't modify too much. Then
Yeah.
UDF is a much clean way to manage all the information. For example, all the panels, you just want one each. You just want you don't want the everything still appear in the geo set.
It's kind of package compact, kind of a compact.
Yes, yes, more like a package.
Yeah.
A package.
So okay, here when
More
I
like
see
the
the
Revit family, as you mentioned. That's a perfect. Yeah.
when I see the structure, seems you are not using the AEC component stuff, and you are not using
No,
the
that's a thing. We don't really using AEC. So
Okay.
so I think this is a good thing to show you here, because in the process in the architect firm, we need to have, for example, the geometry here. I don't really want to create a geometry like this way in CATIA, because I can do this in Rhino. But what I'm saying, a lot of time when we create a geometry, one is for the visual confirmation, because the wireframe doesn't have the shape to be seen as easier. But the second thing is that's so Mansoor, that become a dilemma, because for example, if you try to ignore all the surfaces in CATIA creating, you just try to pay attention to the wireframe and the work points. That is essentially the level of information I'm capable to create in CATIA. So when I say I don't think to create the surfaces here is not good, I don't mean that way. I'm just trying to say is that if I have better knowledge, I will create this more like using UDF, and to use some sort of automation to pick up the input to populate or to instantiate the UDF to complete this. I did all this like in Power Copy by levels. So essentially, I change the levels. I change the inputs. Inputs are mostly for example, here is the geometry you are seeing here. They are just repeating, as you can imagine. But what I'm trying to say is the power of CATIA is real automation to do the Power Copy by UDF automatically.
Yeah, so you really
Go on,
need to
please.
know the automations, because a lot of stuff,
Yes.
but shapes are
Yes.
changing, but
Because a lot of things I'm doing is not really can be much better, much faster.
yeah, yeah, of course. So, and also maybe, you know the UDF and Power Copy, maybe I can add you the ability, engineering template. That is the
Yes.
very quiet, similar working as a Power Copy. But you will create a component by automations. So it acts
Right.
like a Power Copy you were going to build. But Power Copy is only for geometry inside of the 3D part, right? So engineering template is for creating the component itself, act like Power Copy. So maybe it would be interesting later on you will going to learn as well. Uh, it will be great because sometimes you need to export IFC as a IFC, not the whole entire shape, just export, but each stuff with other programs want to see as an IPC. For example, if you want to see this stuff in Revit, you need to provide the IPC format export, right? So you need to change those stuff as an IPC format. So therefore,
Okay.
it should be you
Yeah,
also have
we
a
didn't really use IFC. Yes.
so
Yes.
you need to
We
have
certainly should
ability
go
for
into IFC.
changing
Yes.
the component, I think. Okay, that's very interesting. Good. I think I have a
So
little
so so
time.
lastly, yeah,
Other.
lastly, if I may wrap up how much I know CATIA,
Mhm.
it's really like everything you may do in Rhino, but in CATIA everything is you only do once. Generally speaking, you only do once. You can tweak as many times as you want instead of like in Rhino, you
Mhm.
need to rebuild in a lot of instances, and everything can be controlled by perimeters, like Mensu is mentioning. So I really take full advantage of CATIA, but I think the really powerful part is the automation,
I think you already well
which
trained.
I love to.
Appreciate of Katya.
I can do the basic. I think this is really like the generative shape design, more like the GSD role. So I kind of can do all the GSD role thing,
Yeah,
but
that is.
not the engineering template.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. I will
I think
explore.
yeah, it is the Somensu is engineering template we can explain to the new users more like the adaptive components in Revit.
Engineering
So
template is
there is
the
a type
thing.
I'm s- I'm trying to say. So Revit have family, and there is a kind of family called adaptive components. For example, that can grab 4 points to create your curtain panel. I personally feel that may be closer. However, anything in CATIA, what I'm trying to say is we, but you cannot really use a lot of perimeters across the families. That's even though there's a global perimeters in Revit, but it is still quite limited. While in CATIA, you can reference anything as a perimeter. I think down the road, the new users will find that be super powerful.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So you can build
There are a
your.
lot, there are a lot of boundaries between the Revit functions. There are layers of functions, but between the layers, there are boundaries to limit the information to be used between the layers in the Revit structure. While in
Yeah,
CATIA, there's a lot of way you can grab the information across the layers,
you know what?
which
When
is
I use
very powerful.
when I use the Revit, it feels like it's half of a parametrics. Families working act like a parameter a little bit. You can achieve some parameters and you play, and it will update the shapes. But for example, family to family, or so those inputs, they are working differently. You can't connect anytime, but otherwise you need to consider everything in same first. But in CATIA, anytime you can involve if your structure is long and you want to do some changes process, of course you can. So those are, I can say full parametric. So from the starting point of the project, you can connect everything until the details if you wish. But therefore, sometimes it might be very complex if you are not building the process structures yourself. It might confuse, but you can achieve wherever you want. Okay.